Here's a number that should make you put your phone down for a second. The rule every landlord, every financial advisor, every personal finance app uses to decide if your rent is affordable.
That rule was written in 1969, not updated in 1999, not revised in 2009, written in 1969.
When a brand new car cost $3,500, college tuition averaged $400 a year, and the internet didn't exist.
That rule is still running your life right now. And here's the brutal part. Millions of Americans are following it perfectly, hitting that magic number every month, and still going broke. Not because they're bad with money, because the rule itself was never designed for the world you're actually living in. My name is Finn. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the biggest financial myths most people never question, the 30% rule. Where it came from, why it's quietly failing you, and what the real number should look like for your actual life in 2026. Let's start with the origin story, because this is where it gets wild. The 30% rule didn't come from a financial genius. It didn't come from decades of research. It came from a piece of housing legislation called the Brooke Amendment, passed in 1969. Senator Edward Brooke wanted to cap how much the federal government could charge low-income tenants in public housing projects. That's it. That's the entire original purpose. It was a rent ceiling for government-subsidized apartments, not a universal guide for every American renter for the next 6 decades. Then, in 1981, the threshold quietly got bumped from 25% to 30% under Reagan, and somewhere between a housing bill and your lease renewal, this number escaped its original context, got adopted by banks, landlords, financial planners, and mortgage lenders, and became gospel. Nobody voted on it. Nobody updated it. It just became the number. Now, let me introduce you to Marcus. Marcus is 32 years old. He works in IT support in Nashville, Tennessee. He drives a 2019 Honda Accord, splits a gym membership with his buddy, and makes $54,000 a year. He's not reckless with money. He tracks his spending. He read 2 personal finance books. He does everything the right way. Marcus found a 1-bedroom apartment in a decent part of Nashville for $1,350 a month. He did the math. $1,350 divided by $4,500, that's exactly 30%. Except Marcus doesn't take home $4,500 a month. After taxes, FICA, health insurance, and his 401k, Marcus is clearing about $3,280 a month. His rent isn't 30% of his income. It's 41% of his actual money before he's bought a single grocery. Now add car payment, $389, insurance, $147, gas, $120, utilities and internet, $195, phone, $85, groceries, $380, student loan, $270, health copays, household supplies, personal care, $115, 1 dinner out, and 1 streaming service, because Marcus is a human being, not a monk, $90. Total monthly expenses, $3,881. Marcus brings home $3,280. Marcus is underwater by $601 every single month, doing absolutely everything right by every standard he was ever taught. And if Marcus calls his mom and tells her he's struggling, she's going to ask if he's sticking to the 30% rule. He's going to say yes, and she's going to be confused because the rule said he'd be fine. This is what happens when a 1969 formula meets a 2026 budget. The formula wins. Your bank account loses. In 1970, the average American household spent about 5% of their income on healthcare. Employer-sponsored family health insurance now averages over $25,000 a year in total premiums. Even if your employer covers most of it, your slice alone can run $4,000 to $7,000 annually. Student loan debt. In 1970, going to a 4-year public university cost the equivalent of about $400 per year. Today, the average student loan balance is around $38,000. $1,000. The average new car payment in America right now is north of $700 a month. Add insurance, which has jumped 50% in 3 years, and you're spending $1,000 to $1,200 a month just to have a car. The 30% rule was designed for a budget with 2 or 3 major line items. Your 2026 budget has 12. In 2022, an investigation revealed that a software company called RealPage had built a pricing tool used by major landlords across the country. Landlords would plug in their data. The software would analyze pricing from competing landlords, also using the same system, then spit out recommended rent numbers. At its peak, this software was influencing pricing on roughly 16 to 19 million apartments nationwide. That's a significant chunk of the American rental market. The Department of Justice filed a lawsuit in 2024, calling it algorithmic collusion. The case settled in late 2025. The fine? $0. The rent hike you got in 2022 that felt completely random and unjustifiable, there's a real possibility a piece of software helped engineer it. But even before you get to rent itself, the fees start piling up. Application fees, $50 to $300 per apartment, non-refundable. Security deposits, pet fees, pet deposits, monthly pet rent? Yes, monthly rent for your dog who did not negotiate this lease and has no income. Parking fees, technology fees, trash valet, where someone walks your bag to the dumpster for a monthly charge you never agreed to out loud. For a lot of renters, junk fees add $150 to $400 to the actual monthly cost. Back to Marcus for a second. Let's say Marcus decides the rent thing isn't working, and he's going to buy instead. Because that's the American dream, right? A modest starter home in Nashville is listed around $310,000. At a 6.5% mortgage rate, his monthly payment, principal and interest, is about $1,660. Add taxes, insurance, PMI, he's at roughly $2,150 a month. In year 1 of that mortgage, about 83 cents of every dollar Marcus pays goes straight to interest. He'd build around $3,500 in equity while handing the bank over $19,000 in interest. Zillow did the math on how long it takes the average renter to save a 20% down payment. The answer is 12 years. 5 years ago, it was closer to 4. So Marcus can't comfortably rent under the real numbers. He can't comfortably buy under the real numbers. What do Americans actually do? About 32% of adults between 18 and 34, roughly 23 million people, now live with their parents. That's near the highest rate since World War II. Not because this generation is lazy, because the math doesn't work, and moving back home is the only budget that balances. And it's not just young people. Let me tell you about someone named Carol. Carol is 68 years old. She spent 35 years as a nurse in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She retired with Social Security and a small pension that together bring in $2,050 a month. Her landlord just sent a renewal notice. Her rent is going up to $1,575. Carol will be spending 77% of her total income on rent. Carol is not a cautionary tale about bad decisions. Carol made good decisions her whole life. Carol is what happens when fixed incomes meet a rental market with no memory. There are more than 12 million cost-burdened senior households in America right now. That is not a fringe number. That is a generation. Now, and I want to be honest with you here, because doom without direction is just noise. There is some genuinely good news in 2026. Rent growth has slowed dramatically. Nationally, it's up less than 2% year over year. Some cities are actually seeing rents fall. Austin, down nearly 5% from its peak. Denver, down 3.5%. Phoenix, down nearly 3%. More supply hitting the market means landlords have to compete for tenants. That means concessions, free first months, waived fees, reduced deposits. If your lease is coming up in 2026, this is your window.
Don't just accept the first renewal number. Go find what new tenants are being offered in your building or the building next door. Walk in with that data. Landlords are dealing right now. Here's why it's temporary. In 2024 and 2025, developers started significantly fewer new apartment projects. The wave of new supply hitting today is not being replaced behind it. Most major forecasters expect supply to drop significantly by 2027 and rent growth to accelerate again. What you're living in right now is the eye of the storm. It's not the end of the affordability crisis. It's a brief pause in it. Use the pause. Here are 3 things worth doing this month. If your lease renews in 2026, negotiate. Don't ask for a lower rent. Ask for a concession. 1 free month, waived fees, locked rate for 2 years. Frame it as loyalty. Frame it as avoiding turnover costs. It works. If you're seriously considering buying, don't run the national math. Run your specific zip code.
And if remote work is an option for you, look hard at what $1,000 a month in rent actually buys you in places like Wichita, Louisville, Oklahoma City, or Toledo.
The 30% rule isn't going away. Your landlord is going to keep citing it. Your bank is going to keep using it. But now you know what it actually is.
A 55-year-old formula designed for a housing program that no longer exists, applied to a budget that looks nothing like the one it was written for. The rule didn't fail you. It was just never built for your life.
Here's the question I want you to answer in the comments right now. Just one sentence. What percentage of your actual take-home pay goes to rent or housing every month? Not gross income, real money. Because I have a feeling the real average in this comment section is going to be a lot more honest than anything a spreadsheet from 1969 would predict. If this hit close, subscribe for next week's deep dive on 2026 negotiation moves to lower rent, get concessions, and lock in rates before the market tightens. Don't miss it.